Okay, we are live now. Um, I am wanting to fix a few technical things here. If you bear with me for a quick second, we can get started here shortly. Okay, I am live now. So, okay. All right, thanks for joining me. I am attorney Cedrick D. Forrest, or Cedrick Forrest said, whatever you want to call me. I'm an insurance attorney here in Houston, Texas. And if you've been watching the news here lately over the last few days, that we are right in the path, in the eye of Hurricane Beryl, which is probably making landfall as we speak on the Texas coast. I've been watching the storm pretty closely. Uh, you know, simply because I live in the area, and it is very important um, that, of course, you stay safe and you be prepared for these types of things and these storms. Um, but I believe that it's also important, and to kind of let people be informed and what I do. I am an insurance lawyer, and I help people who have been wronged by their insurance company, or who haven't gotten paid enough money by the insurance company. And as anyone who's a homeowner or a property owner knows, at this time, insurance premiums are going skyrocketing, going through the roof. They are, you know, almost unaffordable at this moment for a lot of families. And in particular, there are a lot of families that are actually lapsing, purposefully allowing their insurance to lapse and going without it because it's just so unaffordable. And plus, the benefit of the bargain is just not worth it, because insurance companies are routinely underpaying or denying legitimate insurance claims. So that's where I step in and I help people. But I think it's very important to kind of keep track of this storm, because there's a lot of perspectives on hurricanes when it comes to the potential damage that a hurricane may cause, but not many people can who are really talking about the potential economic and financial impact to the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that can cause, and how that can be actually resolved or fixed. Not many people have the liquidity in their accounts to fix the damage to the potentially tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to their home that can be caused by a hurricane. And so they rely on their insurance to do that. And so that's where I really come in. And that's where I can really, provide a little guidance and a little perspective on what the potential impact of that can be on the any insurance claims in the weeks and months that are going to be coming here real soon. I mean, it's here now, so I've already heard of thousands of people actually out of power already. I want to jump in on this news cast and let's see what he's talking about. It looks like the storm may be a little bit, breaking apart. Let's see what he says here.
To the left or to the west, you've got the coastline arcing something like this. So the more west you go, the earlier that landfall happens. So that is a good thing, but unfortunately, of course, it does bring the worst of this ashore in those areas. This is new, a flash flood warning issued for portions of Matagorda, Brazoria counties, where we're going to be checking in with Fox Weather's Britta Merwin. These areas have seen hours of heavy rain. Yeah, it's those two counties. It runs until 4:45 local via radar, and gauge indicated 2 to 4 inch per hour rain rates within these heavy bands. And a quick glance at radar, it is still pouring. Let's go out into the storm. Let's check in with Fox Weather's Britta Merwin. She's in Surfside Beach, Texas. Britta, yeah, this has made a jog to the left. We're likely call it an hour out or so from landfall. Wanted to point out where you were. I think it's 20 miles as the crow flies down toward Matagorda Bay. Multiple reports, yep. 60, 70, up to 75 mile per hour wind gusts recorded now.
Yeah, I don't think that we've had hurricane force wind gusts just yet, but mid to upper 60s feel-wise sounds reasonable for what I'm feeling with my body. Of course, I don't have an anemometer on me, but that's
60 mile
what
per
it
hour
feels like in comparison to what I had felt in other storms.
They can knock shingles off roofs. They can knock over,
here,
smaller trees.
It's critical that we're able to bring you these images because most of them aren't here.
That is pretty significant, especially if they're
for folks that don't live in Surfside Beach, there's a natural curiosity of what's going on. There is a mandatory evacuation in place. The reason why we are here is because we're sheltering with the local fire department. So the Surfside Beach Fire Department is sort of being our safe haven, so to speak. But each rain band that comes in, it does get significantly worse. And there you go right there. It feels like needles are being driven into the back of my legs because the raindrops turn into a projectile. Oh, ow, it stings. And I got 2 layers on. 2 outer layers, it doesn't do anything to keep you dry because when you force the rain in with winds that are gusting above 55, 65 miles per hour, it drives right through the fabric itself. You mentioned the flash flood warning that's in effect for Matagorda and Brazoria County. That is where we are right now. We're included in that flash flood warning that's up until 4:45 local time. A lot of that water, of course, is being wind driven. So the only collection of water that I'm seeing so far are in these low-lying spots that are next to the homes. We did send Jared Maloney, he's my producer, who is a meteorologist, out with one of the firefighters in the high-profile vehicle. He was already going out for a patrol and offered a ride to Jared, and he got some video of some major washover. This is one of the higher spots on the barrier island, And closer to the Gulf itself is Surf Drive. Surf Drive always gets washed over sometimes when we have an astronomically high tide. So it is a natural spot that does experience it. But wow, when we turn the video and show it to you, which we're working on that process right now, you can see breakers, Ian. There's breakers that are coming over Surf Drive right now. And wow, we're really getting into another rain band right now as we speak.
Yeah, Britta, we'll check back in with you.
Well, it seems like that got serious pretty fast right there, and that just really is an example of just how these winds are unpredictable. I mean, they're bands literally. So I mean, you can imagine, like, if someone, have you ever seen someone, you know, swing maybe a rope or something in a circle? You know, it's banding. There's different speeds that are, you know, being felt there, and so apparently she got a very powerful band there that was kind of coming through. I don't know if it's going to be sustained or if that's a sign of something, you know, more coming as it goes, but at least at that moment, it looks like there needed to be a little break. So let's see if she comes back here.
This is a Fox Weather Alert. Live pictures from Bay City, Texas. That's about 20 miles due north of Matagorda, 20 miles north of the Gulf Coast. You can see that heavy rain, that right to left wind. We've seen measured gusts, call it 20 miles southwest of here, up to about 75 miles per hour now, as the center of this, the eye-like feature, is starting to move ashore. Now, a landfall doesn't officially occur until the National Hurricane Center says the center of that center of circulation has moved ashore. We did just get a new update from the National Hurricane Center. They're hourly from here on out. So the new advisory just in, no change to the maximum sustained winds. Those are still at 80 miles per hour, but the pressure has dropped. It's deepened some from 984 millibars down to 982 millibars. So that is an indication of still an intensifying tropical storm, and we're thinking that'll be the case right up through landfall. Let's get back out to Fox Weather hurricane specialist Brian Norcross to dig in to the details on this. And Brian, yeah, we had said that. It also said in their latest update, landfall within the next few hours, and I think few could be one if this keeps moving left or off to the west. I suppose it could be a few, like 3, if it stays more on a eastern path and it has more water to travel over.
Well, the simple math is that it's 20 miles south, essentially south of Matagorda, and it's moving at 10 miles an hour. So, you know, nominally 2 hours to get the center up there, but we'll see, as you say, because it has kind of wiggled back to the right. It definitely wiggled off to the left here, and now in fact, the latest Hurricane Hunter position is kind of back to the right a little bit. They tend to smooth these things out. So here's what I think happened. You mentioned that at new advisory here, the 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern time update. It's not really an advisory. They had an 80 miles per hour, but we had seen the hurricane hunters measure 97 miles per hour at flight level. So if you take 10% off of that, you end up in the higher 80s. But I think maybe what happened was they looked at the radar and said, well, but as of now, we don't see as much red, dark red in here, so the system may be on the weakening side just a little bit, and so they went ahead and held it at 80 miles an hour compared to when that measurement was actually made. Let me put this in motion here, and you can see early in the loop we have some reds, and then it's kind of beginning to die out a little bit, and we get more oranges. If I had a little longer loop here, which actually I have the technology to make that happen. Let me see if I can do this or not and make this actually loop longer. We can see see the bright reds that were there when it was offshore. See up in there, the very brilliant reds. Now we see much less of that. So that may be a sign that we don't have those peak winds that we had. But the main thing that's happening now is that the wind direction is coming kind of from south to north, and that's piling the water up. The other thing is we talked about earlier, this flash flood warning up in here, because you can see that one rain bed after the other has fallen there. It's a very flat area. They actually have low water crossings in some of the roads there. So this is the ultimate turn around, don't drown situation, because the water is high and rising, and it'll rise quickly now that the strong onshore winds are very close to the coast. All right, and so when we look at the wider view, we can see here where the band number 1, think of this as 3 bands, one there, and then this one is sort of the quasi-eye wall, where on the east side here, this is where the strongest winds were measured by the radar, in these bands out here, where the radar was measuring in the 90s, but that was up at about 12,000 feet, 11,000 feet, something like that. So you have to take some off of there. So 80, 85 miles per hour in those bands there, and that's what's moving north and driving the water up toward the coast. And we saw the 3.2 feet above normal high tide at Freeport a little while ago, but now their sensor is not working, or something has happened to it. Maybe it's just that they lost power. We don't know, but it was 3.2 above high tide already, and more to come.
Okay, so we have another break. These breaks are actually coming pretty often for this channel. So let me see if I can find another let's see if I can find another stream here while we wait for this one to come back.
The storm surge over here is being driven by the southerly winds. So this is where we stand here right now. And when we look at the tide schedule here, you see where we are. We're coming up. So this is the kind of the current time. We're coming up with the tide, so I think that landfall is going to be here. It's not going to be at high tide, thankfully, so we'll probably save 1.5 feet or so of what it could be if it happened at high tide, more a mid-tide kind of thing if it really does happen in the next 2 hours, and it looks like
you're
plus
just
or
joining
minus
us
that's what's going to
here,
happen, Ian.
Yeah, the worst of this
thanks
moving
for
in.
watching
We're seeing
here.
that
I
on
wanted to
radar. We're
provide
seeing
a
that on the
different
gauges.
perspective
We're
on
also
this
seeing
storm,
that with our
being that
folks
I
in the
am in the
field.
Houston area. I'm an insurance lawyer. My name is Cedrick Forrest, and I deal with this type of stuff all the time when people are, affected by these storms, whether it be a tornado or a hailstorm. In this case, it's a hurricane. So these type of storms, this is only a Category 1 storm, but it can still cause a lot of damage. In fact, it can cause billions of dollars worth of damage. And I'm keeping an eye on it, because of what I do, as well as that I do live in Houston and I'm in the area, and I do expect to be affected by the storm in some way, hopefully very minimally, as well as, everyone else. But I think it's kind of inevitable with the eye of the storm coming right over a major metropolitan area. I think it's could potentially, be an issue that can affect a lot of people, cost billions of dollars worth of damage. So right now, if you have just joined in, the National Hurricane Center has not necessarily called this a landfall yet. The eye of the storm is approaching an area. It's called Surfside Beach. It's a pretty nice beach. I've been there a few times before, but it's not going to be considered a landfall until the actual center of the eye actually makes over the land. And I expect that to be within the next 30 minutes, definitely within the next hour.
It's some strong winds that are going through Surfside Beach right now. For people that live on this barrier island, they haven't had a taste of strong winds in quite some time. The last big, I wouldn't even call
I'd
it
like
a
to
big
hear
storm,
some comments
but
if you're from the
an
Houston
impactful
area,
storm.
or if
when I
you,
think
you
about
know,
big, I'm thinking
if you've
major
been in
Category
a
3 or
hurricane,
higher. But they
I've been
had
in a few
a
hurricanes.
Category
I've been
1
in
hurricane
Harvey,
make landfall
Ike,
with Nicholas in 2021. That
Irma.
landfall was
There
about
was
10
actually
miles
one, I think,
west
Isabel.
of Sargent,
This
which
when I was living
Sargent
on the
is
East
just
Coast,
a stone
I believe.
throws down into
This is
Matagorda County.
years
This is
back. I was
South Brazoria County,
in that
so
hurricane
not too
as well.
far off from where
And in
we're
fact,
located.
for a
And that
time, I
hurricane
lived in
had winds sustained
Corpus
at 90
Christi,
miles
which is
per
kind of where
hour.
this storm is making landfall. And my house was right on the bay where the actual hurricane made landfall. So what's kind of funny about that is that I got the least amount of damage because my house is basically right there in that center of the center, and there's really not much that really happened to the homes and everything around me. But everything from Rockport, Texas, and all those surrounding areas had significant damage. So hurricanes have their way. That's all I can say.
What is the same, though, is the topography of the coastline, and that is always a kicker for Southeast Texas. It is naturally prone to storm surge, and we can pull higher numbers here than you can see in other spots across America just because of the shape of the coastline. So if we have a storm that's coming in on a northwest approach, which for the majority of the overnight, that's what we've had until we've really seen that tug in the north-northwest direction. Of course, Beryl feeling that tug from the trough of low pressure that's really sitting over, to the north on the lower 48. So that's pulling it to the north. But we haven't really seen the effect of the storm surge just yet, and that's what I'm bracing myself for. Because the winds are
I don't think
a
she's
lot,
going to
don't
be,
get me wrong.
That's not the best place to be right
we hide from the wind
now.
and we run from the water. And the fact that we could see 4 to 6 feet of storm surge is a huge concern. Already here at the fire station, which is located on one of the highest points of the island, they're bracing for at least 6 inches of water in the bays. Ooh, wow, that stings. Oh, let me tell you, Ian, when we get a gust like this,
Wow.
the rain droplets feel like 1,000 needles pressing against the back of your legs. My back
I can
is pretty
imagine
well
what that feels
protected.
like.
I have double layers on.
I,
and these are outer rain layers.
I used
that
to
I'm
ride
wearing.
motorcycles, and when I
taking
get
it
caught
okay,
in the
but the
rain,
backs of my
that's
legs,
what
it
I imagine that
stings.
feels
It
like. It's like
literally
little
stings
needles
when
hitting
have
you.
these big
And
gusts that come
you don't
through.
necessarily have to be going too
I'm
fast. You
looking
could
at
be
the
going
sensor,
like 40,
Britta. It's
50
still
miles per
close
hour.
by
If
to
you're
you in
not protected
Freeport,
right,
gusting consistently to
it hurts.
50. You know, the bands are like concentric rings. You're in the second one. I think you'll have a little bit of a lull, and then you're going to get into the teeth of it in what would be considered the inner core of this proper. So, Britta, be safe. We'll be checking back in. Thank you. Fox Weather is your hurricane.
I want to see if I
HQ.
can
We're
find
gonna
me a channel
continue to
somewhere that
track
is,
Beryl as this is a
some
storm.
live photographs
The pressure's
besides
still
just
dropping. It's
surf-sided.
intensifying right up and on approach
I'm
to the coastline.
myself,
Look at
I'm
this.
about
It's a live
at
picture. This
least
is from
50, 60
Vince Welty.
miles
He's
from
been
Surfside
somewhere
Beach,
between
where it's
Matagorda
making
and Bay
landfall
City
right
over the
now.
last hour or so. He's
So
parked
sometimes
right
it can be like a
now.
preview
He's gotta
of
be fairly
what's
close
going
the
to
coast at
happen
this
in
point.
your
He's probably
area.
closer
So
to Matagorda. Look at the wind gusts. I know it's hard to see. He's got a big floodlight, a big spotlight on the top of his rig, but you can see the wind there is cranking, and we're watching this inner core. It's on its final approach now. Parts of that eye wall-like feature are moving ashore. We likely have a landfall within the next hour or two. We've got you covered here on Fox Weather, both for the landfall.
So what we're
course
seeing right now
and
are
for
just the
threats that spread
bands.
farther inland with time.
And they,
We'll be right back.
that's really what causes most of the damage. And the east side of the bands are really, the ones that can bring the tornadoes and the flooding. Most of my clients that, in the past who, had hurricanes and, had their property damaged by hurricanes, they were on the east side of the storm. And that is typically the area that receives the most damage. So, we have yet to see exactly what this storm will bring. It's not an official landfall yet. Should be another within the next hour or so, is what I'm hearing right here. Let's see if we can find someone else here that's giving us a different perspective. What I'm seeing is potential for billions of dollars worth of damage. Simple as that. Whether it be from the flooding, the storm surge has not been, or at least from what I'm hearing, hasn't been too, bad or terrible. But we still may have a little bit more of the surge left because, the storm hasn't made complete landfall yet. So we have yet to see exactly the full potential. So after the storm surge, there will be wind, of course. And if these winds are sustained, if you were watching the bands, there are gusts that come through, and then there's maybe a small lull, and then there's some more gusts and more gusts. These bigger these bands are, the longer and sustained the gusts are going to be. So you have the potential, uproot trees and knock roofs off, and lots of damage. So, of course, that's where I come in. My job is a lot of times I will, I get these types of clients who've had all these types of damages. And one of the funny, I guess it's not funny if it's involved to you, is, if you're involved with it, is insurance companies will, there are two types of insurance that homeowners or property owners have or can have. One is going to be wind and hail and fire insurance, which is, your normal insurance that everyone can get. But there's also flood insurance, and flood insurance is administered by the National Flood Insurance Program. But not everyone can get flood insurance. And so there's only 14 counties. Well, those 14 counties on the coast of Texas, of course, they can get insurance, flood insurance, but there's other areas inland. But flood insurance is not offered to anyone. So there will be a lot of people who will experience flood damage to their homes, but the insurance company, their insurance will not cover it. And so that's where FEMA has to step in. I wish the National Flood Insurance Program, especially now with our changing weather patterns, needs to be kind of, rethought out a little bit more, because there will be hundreds of thousands of people and billions of dollars left you know, that are going to have to be out of the paid by people because they don't have flood insurance. And insurance companies, if you do have flood insurance and wind insurance, the flood insurance company will say, well, this damage was caused by wind, and the wind insurance company, no, this damage was caused by flood, and that is usually the fight between these two insurance companies. I've done a lot of that work starting all the way back on the East Coast in Hurricane Sandy. It was wind and hail, wind and water and wind-driven rain. That was a lot of the subject of the litigation. So let's get back here to the news and let's see what's going on.
When that center moves ashore, that will be landfall. And that's still just the beginning of this as we work on through our Monday as these hazards spread inland. That's 5, 6, 7 a.m. Eastern time. And this one, you knock one off for Central time. Look at the heavy rain still finding its way across the Houston metro area. This is a place that is always, it's the 4th largest metro in the country. It's very vulnerable to flooding. We know that. They had flooding back on Saturday with less than an inch of rain. It came down hard. The rain rates were problematic and led to flash flooding. The forecast in total is for 5 to 8 inches. That's going to lead to some flash flooding, but also within these bands, we've got the severe weather potential. There's a tornado watch up that includes the Houston metro area that runs all the way until 10 a.m.
in general, is a very low-lying area, so there's a lot of potential for flooding. So if you are in the area, stay safe. I hope no one is on the road right now, but definitely if you are for some reason, try to find an area where you can stop and probably just stay there for until the morning, because there are a lot there. Flash flooding, it can happen any time. Low-lying areas, especially, there are a lot of dams not dams, but bayous. There's dams in the area, but bayous that flood that are supposed to be retention basins, but they always flood. So stay safe out there.
Flooding occurred back on Saturday with so little rain. They're at a 10-inch surplus for rain on the year so far. It's been especially soggy. They had the derecho that moved on through multiple rounds of severe weather. There's been a ton of rain, and look at the timing of this in Houston. Yeah, this is as we move forward through the next couple of hours. That's now 4 a.m. local.
And if you're watching right now, feel free to subscribe to my channel, Real Lawyer Insights. I'm going to be covering this for the next couple of days, because this is actually just the beginning. If you know anything about the Houston weather and you know anything about Houston hurricanes, the real damage, the real problems don't start until the days after the actual landfall of the hurricane. That's when we get the tornadoes and usually the flooding, and it could last for a week or 2 weeks, as in the case of like Harvey. So please, like, follow, subscribe. I'll keep you updated. I'm right here with it. It's my life now here for the next few weeks, and it will be for the next, months probably too, because I work in this particular area, in the insurance law area.
Mark, we got you back here on the phone. We've had these conditions worsening. The flash flood warnings are in effect. What have you seen since we last spoke?
Oh, absolutely. A big increase in the rain, some pretty hard downbursts of wind, a few power flashes. Not many people out on the road, which is obviously a good thing. We're not driving. We're stationary here in a big open parking lot. But a noticeable increase in the wind and rain and that northern eye wall. It's not a very strong or marked eye wall, but it's coming, and the worst is probably about 30 minutes away.
Yeah, Mark, Cody's with me here in Weather Command. He's saying the more inland
like
portion of Bay City
right now,
measured a wind gust up to about 56 miles per hour. So a southern part of it, we may see gusts that are even greater than that, and you still have the storm.
I'm about I am about 50 miles or so from where this is right now. So I expect here in the next 2 hours, I should be getting a lot of rain here. But as you know, this thing is supposed to travel all the way up to Cleveland, Ohio. There's also Cleveland, Texas, and that's actually not too far from me as well, so they will definitely get it. I'm pretty sure the Cleveland, Texas will get much more of this damage than Cleveland, Ohio will.
Wow. So that's going to be the concern going forward, is that big surge, 4 to 7 feet perhaps, along different portions of the Texas
That's the first
coast.
time I've heard about
and
the
as
surge.
Brian
Let's hear about
Norcross has
that.
mentioned, that it's not really easy to know because of the way these bays are down here. It's a very complicated setup.
Yeah, it is a very interesting geography in that part of Texas. We just flashed the radar up so folks could see that, and Brian's been making this point. When you've got this push of water perpendicular to the coastline, that's where we get the max effect of the surge, right. and that's likely happening here over the next hour or two. Mark, what are your thoughts moving forward beyond the immediate threat, which is, of course, at the coast? We already have one flash flood warning issued. I'm talking more for the Houston metro area as some of that heavy rain moves in. We've got the significant severe weather potential, too.
Yes, I'm seeing we're using radar scope, and I can see on there the different rotation signatures. All of that is headed up towards the Houston area. It is not going to be a good rush hour, and that's an understatement. The understatement of the month so far, right? Houston not looking good at all for Monday here as this rolls in. I think a good deal of the Houston metro area all the way down to
I'll
Friendswood
be going to work because
and
this
into
is whenever
Galveston. It is just going to be a
this
bad
is my
situation
element,
along
actually,
the
as an
I-45
insurance
corridor.
lawyer.
Going up
Probably
into
by
Houston, Katy, we
tomorrow
got that camera I
afternoon, if
mentioned
it's
out
safe and the
south,
roads are
South
clear,
Main
I'll
Creek.
probably be out doing drone inspections. I do a lot of
Monday's just
drone
not looking good. I
inspections
mean, there's no way
whenever
around it.
when they're major storms like this. I like to do that because it gets a clear picture. When you're down there looking at it, sometimes you miss things as well as you don't get the full gravity of the situation and the damage that's caused. So a drone will show a lot of the damage. I use it's a Mavic 3 drone. It's a proprietary. It's made for this potentially, especially using AI technology. And so the drones inspections that I do will give a full 3D model of the home, the roof, everything, because I need to show that to insurance companies to make sure that they pay for the damage. And if we need to litigate or sue or do anything like that, I have that evidence showing that because one of the games that insurance companies play is they like to play if I didn't see it or you don't show it to me, I didn't see it, even though when the damage is obvious. So that is a good 3D perfect way to preserve all of that evidence and all the damage. So if I'd recommend that if you are affected, maybe if you're listening to this podcast right now, and you are maybe affected by a storm or this storm or whatever, find someone who can do a drone assessment of your property. And it's also good to do a drone assessment of your property before any damage is, so you can have a reference for afterwards. We'll talk about that later.
Very flat. So what we don't know is in these bays. So if we look at this here, and we know the wind is kind of coming like this, right? And look at these bays right in here. This bay is East Matagorda Bay, and this is the one we call Matagorda Bay or West Matagorda Bay. And Matagorda, the town of Matagorda, is right in the middle. Looks like this landfall is going to be very, very close to Matagorda, where the center of the storm comes in. But there are very few inlets in those bays. So some of the water may be coming over these very kind of low barrier islands between the Gulf and the bay. They're not populated for the most part. So whether the water is actually coming over that and getting into the bay or squeezing through the little inlets, that we don't know, because it's dark out and no way to know or see anything. But I want you to notice on the radar here, Ian, look at we're once again seeing some bright reds in here and even up here in the area that's made landfall. Remember, this is a lot of water up in there. It's very moist. It's kind of, bayous and creeks and it's very, very flat land up in there. So this is a very healthy system we'll be interested to
So
see what
if
the
you
analysis
are,
is from the hurricane.
not
Center.
familiar
The
with
hurricane hunters are still out there flying
the
around
layout of
and-
the
and
land
checking out.
here in
That's why you
Houston,
see
it's
this kind
very,
of bend back to the north,
for the
because
most
hurricane
part,
hunters
it's a
have,
low-lying
determined that
area.
that's indeed
It
what's happening. Here's
is
that flood
very
zone
prone to
that you talked
flooding
about
due
there
to
in, Brazoria
the
County,
first it's a concrete
moving off to the west.
jungle. It's
All
a
right,
lot
let's
of
check these
this
storm
area
surge
was
readings
pretty
and see what
much
we have. There you see that Matagorda Bay reading there at 2.68.
pretty much marshland
Now
and
3.2
swampland
Sargent
that's
may
been
really
built
get
up,
it here.
and so but it still is Mother Nature or Mother Earth here built land masses the way that they are were intended to be, and so it still is prone to taking in a lot of water and flooding. And we have a system of bayous, which are like retention areas that will, that were, made to make, this water kind of have a place to go and to flow to. But of course, buildings and a lot of different, just urban development has kind of changed the way that water flows, and it causes a lot of flooding. So, 5-6 inches of rain in this area is very significant, and I think we've seen some people who are saying like 10 to 15 inches of rain. So that can be very, very, very devastating.
Come down as hard as it has throughout this entire storm. Brian will be checking back soon.
More to come.
Yeah, thank you. Fox Weather is your Hurricane HQ. We're covering Beryl all night long as Texas is now square in the crosshairs. I think in the next hour or so, we're talking about a landfall for Category 1 Hurricane Beryl, and then threats that spread far inland as we move throughout our Monday. That is Bay City, Texas, 20 miles from the coast, courtesy of exclusive Fox Weather storm tracker Mark Suddeth. We'll be checking in with him, Britta, in Surfside Beach when we come right back. Stay with us here on Fox Weather.
Okay. So, going back to that flooding, if you are familiar with the last major hurricane that hit this area was Hurricane Harvey. I might be getting my names. It was Harvey or Ike. It was Harvey, I believe. And so with that hurricane, the most of the devastation, in fact, that hurricane didn't even hit Houston. In fact, the eye hit in the Corpus Christi area, which is a little further down south. If you saw that map that was just put up on the screen, and I lived in that area. And in that area, the damage wasn't too bad. There was a lot of wind damage in that area. But on the east side of the storm, up near Houston, and if you recall, I believe that storm was like a Category 3, or whenever it hit, 2 or 3 when it hit. That's where most of the damage occurred. Those bands created on the east side of the storm created massive flooding, tornadoes, and that's where you see those pictures of Houston where we had major highway systems just covered in water, like feet of water. And so that was what was so devastating at that time. So I think we have about 2 minutes here before this broadcast comes back. And I'm going to try to find another broadcast. I think everyone here is just really waiting for everything. Let's see if I can find us another one here. And let's talk about this. Well, the main thing that I really want to talk about, though, is the potential for the just billions of dollars in the financial problems that this storm will cause some families. Insurance is supposed to cover these types of things, but in my line of work, I found that they do not do that all the time, or at least they will not do it without a fight. So it's very important that if it's probably too late right now, but if you are ever in a hurricane, that you are prepared, with the right types of insurance coverages, where the wind, and if you have flood insurance offered in your area, I'd recommend getting it. If they offer flood insurance, is administered by the National Flood Insurance Program, and it's actually not offered in all areas. You have to be in the areas in the floodplain that this insurance is actually offered. And so if it's offered in an area that you live in, it's probably a signal that you should get it because that area is known to flood. And so you want to have all the protection that you can have. And, I'm saying that I'm not an insurance salesman, I'm an insurance lawyer. So I'm saying that because it's best to have those types of protections and have to fight to get, all the value out of it rather than to not have it at all. You have no chance. You have no chance of getting your home fixed unless you have the savings or just, the financial wealth in order to do it yourself and do it out of pocket. But I can see a real repair of a house after a flood can easily be hundreds of dollars. Easy. That's for the personal property. The interior damage, you're going to, be doing everything from changing all the flooring to drywall to electrical issues. You name it, it can happen because of a flood. A wind claim can easily, you have to get a whole roof replacement. You can, get, things in your whole roofing system have to be changed. Would have to be things like rafters, the underlayment, decking, all those things would have to be changed. And that in itself can easily be, $50,000 to $100,000, depending on the type of roofing and the size of the roof on your home. Not to mention the personal property and the time that you would have to spend out of your home because you can't live in it. So you'd have to pay for a hotel and all those things or another place to live. And insurance does cover those things. You have to fight for it a lot of times. And I have to do that fight for a lot of people, but it's important that you do have it. It's one of those things you can't live without it. Can't live with it, can't live without it type things. Here we go. I think I'm on the same one, though. Let's see if we can find something else here. Still got a minute. Is this the same one? Yeah, here we go. Here's another news station here.
An inch and a half of rain in Angleton. And like I said, things are just getting started. And where this blue is showing up, that's where we've already had about maybe 4 to 5 inches of rain since midnight, which is 2.5 hours ago. Let me show you forecast rainfall. And this is where, we run into multiple concerns. Obviously, we have a concern with high winds. No doubt about that, but also dangerous. Flooding. So this is the futurecast rainfall that we have between now and 6 a.m., where we start to see the blue showing up, which is 4 to 5 inches. And then as we progress in time through 12:30, through just after noontime today, when you get into the pink, that's 7 to 8 inches. Anything white means 8 or more. So that could mean, 10. And we're looking at that in parts of Fort Bend County, western Harris County, heading up to Montgomery County. So obviously a big concern for flooding there, even in the Houston area itself. A wide swath of 5 to 10 inches of rain possible with some isolated higher totals. Here's our future cast here, and we'll take a look. The reason I'm showing you so many future casts is these are variations, some different models. They're all showing something similar. So here's our graph model, which again is showing that landfall taking place near Matagorda, within the next hour or so. And then we see something that is not very common, and that is that we could have the eye of this potential Category 1, strong Category 1 hurricane over Brazoria County. Now, this particular model is farther east with the center of circulation. We showed you one before, and I think maybe Allison's going to show it to you. If not, we'll take a look at it coming up, of the GFS computer model, which had the center of circulation over here, basically just off to the west of Katy. This graph model, which is our IBM model, is showing the center of circulation right over Houston, which would lead to extremely high winds across places like Splendora, the Woodlands, Conroe, in those spots. From here, by 1:30 this afternoon, we already see some improvements taking place south of I-10. I'm not saying it's going to be wonderful, but already seeing some big improvements. And then by this evening, by 10 o'clock, it's basically over. Still going to be breezy, but it's just pretty much over. So this is the latest as far as the numbers, and we'll get another advisory at 3. Unless a landfall takes place, then we'll get an immediate advisory. But we'll get that coming up at 3 a.m. But as of the latest advisory, 80-mile-per-hour maximum sustained winds with higher gusts moving to the north-northwest at 10. The pressure is down to 982. This time yesterday, it was about 992. So the pressure has been dropping. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm gets.
So
and then here's the latest
low
track,
pressure is the
taking it
indication that the
almost due
storm is
north
actually
with the center of circulation
power,
passing
so
almost
that's
right
not
over
the
Harris
best
County, or at
sign.
least really close to it. And then moving up to the north as we head into the afternoon, and then, like I said, you know, sort of exiting the area fairly quickly. So landfall should be occurring within the next hour. Expect flooding. I mean, just, you know, we talk about hunker down, right? You know, you go back to the days of Judge Emmett, and we heard so many times, hunker down, right? This is the day to hunker down, because we're going to have flooding, almost guaranteed. We're going to have this very rare appearance of very high inland winds for Houston and the suburbs. Plan for a loss of power. You know how often the power goes out. And again, this doesn't, and as you know, we'll talk to, you know, Lena throughout the morning, who's our sort of energy guru. This doesn't have to do with the Texas electrical grid. This is just literally power lines and stuff getting knocked down, transformers and so forth getting knocked down, and I fully anticipate that happening. This is what the system looks like on satellite imagery. This is not a major hurricane, meaning that we don't have this super well-defined eye. Remember, at one point, Beryl was a Category 5, right? It set records as the earliest Cat 4 on record, the earliest Cat 5 on record. You know, devastating parts of the Caribbean Sea. This is not that kind of storm anymore, but what we have is this very widespread storm that's going to give us those 50, 60, 70 mile per hour winds, which when you're talking about an area here in the Houston area with 5 million people is a big, big deal. Here's another look at radar, sort of a wider view, and I want you to notice how we have bands that's set up. So by bands, I mean there are individual lines here, curves, of high amounts of rain. So you have one there, another one there, and this is where those heavy rainfall accumulations come into become a big problem, because if you get caught under one of those rain bands, that's where the rain just, I mean, it's a deluge, and that's where we start seeing some flooding.
All right, so what you're watching right there is Fox 26 Houston. Our team out there is now in extensive coverage, and they do have reporters that are headed to a variety of locations. So they are going to have these live reports, and we'll bring those to you over the course of the next several hours as we do get closer and closer to actually seeing landfall of Beryl. Right now, a Category 1 hurricane with winds of about 80 miles per hour. I do also want to let you know we're keeping an eye on the outage map. You heard him talking about this, but there are now 23,000 customers that are without power over in Texas, and that is ahead of the storm actually making landfall.
That's
Those
pretty
numbers
much
likely
the
to
norm
rise, so we'll
with
keep you
these types of
updated right here
storms.
on Live Now from Fox.
So
Let's head to a quick break now at 3:38 on the East
we'll
Coast
see
and 12:38
if that
on the
number
West Coast.
increases
My
of
name is Josh
people without
Breslow,
power.
and we'll be right back with more live, raw, and unfiltered coverage.
Let's see if we can find us another feed here. I think that's a live view of downtown Houston right now. Looks pretty calm, but within the next few hours, I don't know. So I want to look around here. I'm gonna see if I can find us some more live pictures and cameras from Houston right now. Maybe get us a better idea of what, what's going
Welcome
on in
back
other
here
areas.
on
But
Live
right now
from
it's really
Fox.
not
You
in the
are
Houston
taking a live
area.
look
It's
over in
about
Galveston, Texas.
50
That is
miles
courtesy
south of Houston or
KTRK.
so.
We're keeping an eye on the situation as conditions do continue to deteriorate across the
And that's
Texas
good.
coast. We know that the Hurricane Beryl is expected to make landfall here really any time now. We're keeping an eye on the situation.
So it looks like
but
it's
do wanna pop
losing,
up
pretty much
this live
losing
image right
its
here.
spin,
This
and
is
it's
our
losing
XRAD radar
its
system.
power, basically.
Right now, as of the
When it's
last
well
update,
formed,
we do
that's
know
a
that
problem.
Beryl
But it
has
seems
maximum sustained winds
it may
of
be
80
losing.
miles per hour, making it a Category 1. We did also learn from the National Weather Service over in Houston here that hurricane force winds associated with Beryl started to arrive along the coast. A weather station near Matagorda Bay gusted 75 miles per hour. That was at 1:26 a.m. local time. That is 2:26 a.m. Eastern time. Let's head back to our Fox 26 Houston team as they do have live reporters that are out in the elements.
All morning, and as you can guys see behind me, the roads are empty, the businesses are empty. This county, Calhoun County, was under that voluntary evacuation order, so some people decided to leave town and some people did decide to hunker down, heeding that warning. Again, we haven't seen any flooding lately, or we haven't seen any flooding yet or damage, but that's not to say that it won't come. We're going to continue to monitor these conditions, and we are going to be heading a little bit north to see if it is impacting the area even more up there. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Jade Fleury, you stay safe out there, and hopefully you can take some breaks, get inside the truck, and get dry in between your reports. We appreciate it. We want to get over to meteorologist Allison Gargaro now. Many of you may be waking up in Montgomery County or Fort Bend County wondering what are the impacts going to be where I live.
And that's going to be the important thing, is that they do differ just a bit depending on where you are across our very large viewing area. But I want to start along the coast. In Galveston County, you're likely going to be seeing the rain starting to pick up. It's definitely a bit closer to Matagorda County, at least the heaviest rain at this time. But in total, anywhere from Galveston to Texas City, Jamaica Beach, 5 to 8 inches will be possible with the entirety of the storm moving through today. But let's talk about the winds, because you're going to be on the east side of the storm where those winds are likely going to pick up. So sustained, I'd say 45 to 55. And already we've been seeing winds right about in that range, but gusts could be up to about 75 miles per hour. And then storm surge that we need to worry about. And the high tides and low tides differ from point to point. So Galveston is going to be seeing high tide within
of anything here. I mean, it doesn't even really look like it's raining right now in Houston. Where I am, where my house is, I'm still probably another 20 miles or so from here, 20 to 30 miles. So it's fairly calm right now.
That's going to be a bit closer inland, as just like Mike has been
so
doing a good job at talking
we probably still got another hour
along,
before any types of impacts. We start seeing any types of
but the thing is, it
rain or
just up until landfall, meaning
maybe potential for
it's going to
severe
take a bit for those winds to decrease,
tornadoes.
and that's why we could be seeing some of the really strong wind gusts even inland. Now, storm surge in Matagorda County anywhere from 4 to 7 feet. So that does look like it increases just a bit. And let's take you out to Brazoria County, Surfside Beach to Lake Jackson, and then moving inland, again, 5 to 10 inches of rainfall in total. And we're likely going to be seeing some really, really strong winds of 90+ miles per hour. Again, that's gusts, but still going to be rather significant. Now let's take you into Harris County. We're going inland. Again, when this storm is still forecast to be pretty strong, potentially at that Category 1 strength. So rainfall, again, 5 to 10 inches, because it really just depends on where that center of the storm is going to be. Sustained winds 50 to 65 miles per hour, but those gusts up to 80. And a friendly reminder, folks, folks that are on the east side of where the center is, so that does include Harris County to Montgomery out to Liberty, we are under a tornado watch through this morning, meaning isolated tornadoes will be possible. And let me tell you, I've covered several hurricanes, and we have seen some spots where
they mentioned the area that I'm in, and so yeah, I'm under tornado watch. That's the first time I'm hearing that, so
within these outer
I'm
rain
learning
bands.
that
We haven't
right along
seen
with
that
you.
yet. I've been watching our velocity scan, but the second we do, we're going to let you know, because A, you don't want to be out in these conditions regardless, but especially if there are any tornado warnings in your neighborhood. Let's take you out to Fort Bend County, and want to let you know, take a look at the wind gusts, 80+ miles per hour, but I'm going to show you our futurecast
a
modeling.
wind gust of
that's
80
showing
miles
some
per hour
spots,
is
in and near Fort
can
Bend
be pretty
County, could
devastating.
be
It can knock
seen
over
close to
trees,
90-mile-per-hour wind gusts.
and
So
you know
lastly, I'm
what
going to take you out to
damage
Morton
that
County, and then
causes.
we'll get to other counties later throughout the morning. Again, isolated tornadoes, 4 to 8 inches of rain in total, and those wind gusts upwards of 70 miles per hour. So I want to talk about the extent of the winds right now. And it's pretty far and wide, from Galveston and then continuing out over the open waters and potentially even down the coastline. But once this starts to make its way onshore, that's where we're really going to be seeing the strong winds confined to where the center is. And I want to show you that this is our GFS model, so different from the model that Mike was showing you just a few moments ago. And it's going to be showing that center moving up toward Bay City. And again, if you're looking at the eye of the storm, literally in the center of the eye, the winds are not going to be quite as strong as where the eye wall is and just outside of that. So that's why right now it looks like maybe Bay City not seeing the strongest winds, but it's definitely going to be on the outer edge up toward El Campo. And then up toward Needville, 65 to 72 mile-per-hour winds by about 3:45. So we're talking about in the next hour. But take a look as this moves inland, that these wind gusts have picked up to 89, if not nearly 90 miles per hour. So that is going to be very, very strong winds. We're talking hurricane force winds as it makes its way inland. But again, this model differs just a bit than others because it has that center actually between Eagle Lake to Rosenberg and then out on the west side of Katy, whereas some other models have it a bit closer to Houston. So I'd say that the winds are probably correct in the sense that we're likely going to see those really strong winds, but the actual location of them could be shifting a bit more
real
to
strong
the east. But we're going to
winds
see
can
these winds
potentially
continue to pick up.
I think right now, I mean, from what I'm seeing, most of the concern is with the winds, and to be honest with you, I can take the wind more so than the flooding. The wind is, once a tree knocks over, it just knocks over, or whatever the wind damage caused, it's pretty quick, and pretty, you can get right on it and start fixing it. Problem with the flooding is, I mean, you have to wait till the flooding goes down, and sometimes that can be days, and then the longer that water is just sitting up there, the more damage and more problems that it's causing. So if it's the wind is going to be an issue, I can kind of take that more so than the flooding.
Again, rising, and that's going to be on top of some of these areas that will be seeing high tide within the next.
All right, you are listening to our Fox 26 Houston team. We are checking in with them for their live reports, and they also, as you see, have meteorologists that are breaking down all of the threats that are posed by this major storm. We're talking a Category 1 hurricane with maximum winds of about 80 miles per hour.
80 miles per hour, that is significant.
From the National Weather Service
So,
over in Corpus Christi, Texas,
certain areas, Montgomery County, Harris County, I want to say Liberty County, I think is what she listed, were under tornado watch. And so if you're not familiar with the area, Montgomery County is actually north of Harris County, where Houston is. And so that's, pretty big distance that this tornado is still creating, this hurricane is still creating at least tornado watches and, that strong of wind gusts. So that's just a Category 1. That's a Category 1 hurricane. I mean, the lowest category of hurricane. So hopefully it doesn't strengthen and get any stronger, and this remains or weakens is what, my, hope is. And we can all just go on about our lives and just count our blessings. Probably in the next few days, what I'm going to be doing, we'll be doing a lot of these hurricane claims, as my day job is, an insurance lawyer. And what I'll be probably doing in these next few days is really surveying the damage. Making sure that, insurance companies act right. That's one way to put it. Making sure they act right. Let's put some music on here. All right. Let's try to put some music on while we wait here, but I'm not hearing it. Let's see if we hear it. Yeah, we do. We're hearing it. There we go. The comments are open, so if you have any questions about hurricanes or questions about, insurance process or, what you can do to maybe prepare yourself for a hurricane or even making an insurance claim, I'd be glad to kind of help you and at least give you my perspective, my know-how, or, just what I know about doing this for, almost, over 10 years now. So. What I planned on doing is I'll probably keep this up here for another 30 minutes or so, and pick back up after landfall. I doubt I'll be going anywhere for the next few hours, simply because the potential for the flooding, the tornadoes, as well as power outages. And so I'll probably be working from home. And here we go. Let's see what's going on here.
Weather, hurricane warnings, storm surge warnings, tropical storm warnings, those are in effect for most of the Texas Gulf Coast. A tornado watch extends inland through 10 a.m. That includes the Houston metro area. And then we have a severe weather threat up across the Arklatex region that'll take us through Monday afternoon and evening. Fox Weather monitoring the Lone Star State as these hurricane conditions and the dangerous storm surge continue to be a concern. We're also monitoring a significant flash flooding and severe weather threat. Places like Bay City have been getting soaked over the last several hours. Our Fox Weather storm trackers are in the storm as we continue to provide team coverage tonight.
So
a Fox Weather hurricane specialist, Brian Norcross, is here with us providing
right now.
expert analysis.
Where,
and we also
we're about to
have
start
meteorologist Britta Merwin. She's in
experiencing
Surfside Beach, Texas, as some of the worst of Beryl is moving in now. So let's check in with Britta. We've been watching that northeastern part of the inner core, Britta, approaching you. Are those winds continuing to pick up?
Yes, we very much can feel that the wind is increasing. Each blow becomes a little harder to keep my footing. Also, the front facade of the firehouse is starting to kind of wiggle back and forth.
So it seems like this reporter has been in the same spot for at least 2 hours. So I'm starting to think that she may be glued down or maybe has on some kind of concrete shoes.
Right? It's interesting,
Either one
Ian, because
may not be
you
a
lose
bad
power,
idea.
but then it actually
Especially
has
right now.
come back online for a short amount of time, and then it goes back out. So interesting to see that. Usually you would just sort of lose it, but we do have power surges where it comes back online and then it drops back out. Right now, actually, I do have power in the home next to me. Now it's out. So it does take some time for the generators to pick back up.
Okay, so
we
they're
got a
already on
spotlight, so hopefully
generator
you can still
power.
make out some stuff.
So I mean, I didn't
back
expect.
out on the barrier island, and it will take
I
some
didn't
time for the
expect
generators here at the
power
firehouse
line
kick
to
back
stay
on.
up
If you're just
even as long as
waking
they
up
did.
and
So
joining us here on Fox Weather, I am
here we go.
live in
Here's
Surfside
the
Beach,
darkness
Texas. That's the
starts
barrier
for
island. This looks to be the power
at least these
flickering
people
back
right
on
here,
and
at least
off
right
again.
now, and hopefully we can get the they can get the power
This is a
back
barrier island that's about
sooner
an
rather than
hour and
later, maybe
15-minute
by
drive southwest of Houston.
tomorrow afternoon or so.
I have noticed, Ian, not only the increase in the wind, but now that the power's back on, I'm just checking out the breezeway. That's the underbelly of these stilted homes. The water is starting to collect, and that's rainwater. That is not storm surge just yet. I haven't seen that in this location. We have gotten some video of some pretty good washover and waves that are probably about 2 blocks closer to the Gulf than I'm located. I'm actually pushed a little bit farther into the bay. The bay is maybe a good 200 yards behind the camera. But the house next to us, the rain that's falling from the sky is collecting in a low part, and now it's collecting underneath the house. We do have a flash flood warning in effect.
So if
for
you're,
this location, and
if
it
you
actually
ever
drags from
been down to
Missouri
that
County, where
area
I'm
down there
located,
close to
into
Surfside,
Matagorda County,
Galveston,
where
there are a
we're
lot of
expecting
houses that are
landfall.
actually
That's
built
up,
up
I believe, until
several feet.
4:45 in
They're
the
on,
morning, so it's gonna carry us
basically
past
stilts.
landfall. But I can see the water
And that's
collecting,
to
so,
protect the storm
good reason
surge.
why. And now that I
Them,
look down
those houses
here,
from the storm
this is
surge,
interesting.
and
We're actually starting to
so
see some
what she's
water
just
wash
describing
over on
is,
this
as you can
road
see,
that's in
kind of
front
that
the
house
firehouse.
back there
We just had
behind her.
a police
It's kind of
officer
lifted
drive
up.
by so I can
I don't know if
actually get a
you,
good
if
visual of
you're
the
watching
splashback,
from an
and it's
area
covering the
that
entire road.
has
That probably is
beaches
the surge.
nearby, and
So now
I think
that
it's
I'm
pretty
turning my
common
back
for
and sort of
areas
noticing that,
in beaches
to
that
give
maybe
you a
have houses
perspective
that
of
may
my
be built
placement,
up, or I don't know,
Gulf
maybe be a
Mexico is on
Texas
this
thing. I'm
side,
kind of
behind the
thinking about
camera
it, and I'm
is the
trying to
bay.
see
And so
if I
we're gonna be
recall
noticing that.
other
Just saw
places
a
having
palm from a
houses
palm
like
tree
that,
fly
but it's
by
pretty
me,
common
and I actually have a piece of a palm tree that's
down in
the
this
street right
area. At
here.
least I think that's
So
our
now
way
we're
of
starting to really see some
solving the problem of the storm
characteristics that are a little
surge.
different than about
at
30
least.
minutes ago. The palm tree damage, parts of palm trees falling off, and then now I am starting to see the storm surge impact some of these roads. And we have a good
Okay, so the surge is coming in right now.
So a little eerie to be speaking to you and
Yeah,
noticing that the storm surge, it is starting to arrive here.
Now
in
she
Surfside
is
Beach.
rethinking that job
Hey,
assignment.
Britta, I wanted to talk to you about the flash flood warning that you mentioned, but gotta say, you got a good feel for the wind. I was looking at that sensor close by to you in Freeport. 8 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, gusting now up to 64 miles per hour. There was a sustained wind at 44 miles per hour, so that's picking up big time. for the flash flood warning close by to where you're at, if you consider storm total yesterday and today, when we say yesterday, it's more so in the hours that were preceding midnight. Britta, where you're at, up over 7 inches of rain now, and you still have a lot more still to come with the inner core.
Wow.
Is that a big concern there?
Of course it is. Of course it is.
It is a concern because obviously the water that's falling from the sky, that 7 inches of rain, it has to get to the Gulf of Mexico. But
The water
I
that's
can
falling
see
from
the
the
surge
sky.
from the Gulf
It's
of
called
Mexico encroaching in on the area. So quite literally,
Not making light of the
there's
situation,
nowhere
but
for that 7 inches of rain to
sometimes
go. It will stay. But when
we've got
you
to
mention
add
7
more to the
inches,
conversation.
I think it's such an important point to bring up. And if you're not a resident along the Gulf Coast, you probably just don't understand this aspect. But locals get it. When we give you a rain forecast for a tropical system, for instance, what we were talking about in Fox Weather last night before I took a little bit of a nap and came here, we were giving a forecast for Brazoria County, probably between 8 and 12 inches of rain. You're always going to have these spots that can almost double the amount of the forecast, and they're very isolated, but they are consistent from tropical event to tropical event. And sometimes that's not a hurricane or tropical storm, but just tropical moisture in general. And you know this from spending time in Florida, Ian. Those isolated maximums, you can't tell where that's going to be until you're in nowcast mode. And the fact that you're saying we have 7 inches of rain already, we have more on the way, I can guarantee you that we're going to have a lot of totals that do probably go over 12 inches of rain.
Yeah, Britta, I think you guys are going double digits there, no question, because like I said, you're up over 7,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
the band that's approaching you is producing rain rates of 2 to 4 inches or more per hour. That's probably going to take an
that's been
hour
my
and some
biggest
change to
concern
get through.
really
So
right now.
that right there, Britta, would easily put
Is that rain? That rain can, you know, can just pop up on you, cause a lot of flooding, cause, you know, homes to wash away, cars to wash away, you know, drowning, a lot of different things. And I was, what is this truck doing over here? Why are these people still on the road?
Related to the Gulf, we got a truck flipping around here. He's a veteran. I see his veteran plates right there. So a lot of these vehicles that you're seeing going by, they're OEM. They're officer, you know, they're emergency management officers that are left behind on the barrier island. But we do have some residents that are riding it out. We've seen the lights on in some of the homes. We've seen some people walking around. But let me tell you, Ian, just seeing the conditions and how they're going downhill, I think the next couple hours are going to approach on we're going to go from nasty to scary.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's
Britta,
already kind of
be
scary,
safe.
especially if you're in
You've
that
been doing
area.
a great job telling us the story of Beryl and really taking some of the worst of the storm. But you're exactly right. I think the next hour or two are likely the worst of what you've seen.
This
so
is
again,
probably
be
when it
safe.
starts.
We'll be checking back in with you, Britta. Thank you. Let's get over to Fox Weather hurricane specialist Brian Norcross. Brian, just got the report from Cody. Matagorda Bay is down to 990 millibars, that sensor there. So that's an indicator right there that the heart of this is awfully close.
Yeah, and Matagorda Bay is actually within the eye-like feature. But I want to show you this. Look at the storm surge chart from Sargent, and look how the water has just gone up like crazy.
So the storm surge, I guess, has finally started
sharp
to
water rise there. Look at that.
I don't know which one was the
zoom.
word.
That's the storm
show
surge
itself
there
or
that
arrive
Britta was
or
talking
whatever.
about. So
but that's whenever
the
the
push of water is now
being
coming
pushed
from the Gulf
by the
at the
storm
same time
into
that
inland.
all that rain that's fallen is trying to get back out.
If you
the
can kind
creeks
of
and
imagine,
rivers
like if you had a
into the
glass
Gulf,
of
obviously
water
that's not going to happen
and you
because
blew
the Gulf
on it,
water pushing is more than the
well, this is
gravity
not water,
force
this is tea, but
coming the other
if
way.
you blew
so
on
that
it, maybe
holds all that
you can
water
kind of
in.
see how
so
those,
that's where the flash flooding
where that wind
develops.
is pushing.
I thought that was interesting.
that
We're
water,
keeping an eye on that to see
inland.
3 1/3 feet right now.
3 feet. Oh, okay. Now the flooding has
normal
started.
high
That's
tide
Matagorda.
is the
Now
reading there.
that's
And
flooding.
You notice
If you
the
can see
tides
down
there
here,
don't swing very much. We're past low tide here, but it's less than a foot. at Sargent between
Even a
low
foot of
tide
water
and
is
high tide.
significant.
Some other areas along the coast,
Especially
it's
if
up to
it's
a foot and a
standing in
half.
those
But
streets
it's
and
not
we have
a
more
big
rain to
tidal
come.
swing there. But of course, if you're, you have a home, or you have a car, or you have a street or something, a foot can make a lot of difference.
Yeah.
All right, let's look and see what is happening here. Here you see this sort of eye wall feature. I mean, this is sort of the eye. The diameter on this is
If you're just joining
30
me,
to
my name
35
is
miles now,
Cedrick
so it
Forrest. I
has
am an
shrunk a
insurance
little
lawyer
bit. It'll be
here
really
in
interesting to see
Houston, Texas. And so I wanted to start this podcast or this live stream here right now to kind of just share some insights and potential, tips when it comes to the aftermath of these storms, because these hurricanes cause, billions of dollars worth of damage, and insurance is supposed to cover it. And so a lot of homeowners, a lot of property owners are, denied their insurance claims unfairly, or their insurance claims are paid, way below than what they should really be, or the insurance company is not, honoring all the coverages. And so, and something like this, if you have wind, hail, or, your typical homeowner's insurance, the wind coverage, or if, maybe there may be some hailstorms associated with this, we don't know yet. Your wind coverage will cover this wind damage caused by this hurricane. And along with that is, if your home is destroyed to the point where you can't live in it while it's being repaired, then there's additional living expense, or, loss of use coverage that will kick in, and they'll pay for you a place to live for, weeks or months, or however long it takes until your home is repaired. And oftentimes insurance companies, especially right now, are not honoring that. And so that's kind of really where I step in, and I do a lot of different things to make sure that the insurance company pays, an insurance carrier or company, or whatever you want to call them, will pay what they are supposed to pay. So feel free to share this video with anyone that may be in the area. I would say, anyone in Texas, Louisiana right now, share this, and maybe they can find some information, some helpful insights on how they can rebuild, or, just come back after this storm, because unfortunately it seems that it will cause, some significant damage to people in this area, and some people will need some help. Some people will be out of their home, and then, in the next few hours, some people will be out of power. They will lose food. They will lose, their shelter. A lot of different scenarios can happen right now. So hopefully some of the information that I provide here on this live stream can help alleviate some of that. And I thank you for watching.
But generally in the 4 a.m. Central, 5 a.m. Eastern time, that's when we're going to get maximum surge, probably lasting a little bit after that. And then moving up, and what I want to really stress here is these are hurricane force gusts forecast through most of the Houston metro area. This is going to take out
pretty
power.
significant.
It's going to be a dangerous situation. Look at this. This is 7 a.m. Central Time. Anybody that might be thinking about going to work, hopefully the judges there in those various counties are going to call off people going to work on Monday, because this is going to be a dangerous situation. But listen to your local authorities. Don't listen to me about whether you.
And that's a good thing. Listen to your local authorities.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're going to do.
You and them, Brian.
You can take whatever I say. You can listen to it. I stand by my advice, at least when it comes to
closer to the beginning of this thing,
making sure that you are, your home or your property is taken care of after this storm. One of the things that you may want to do at this point is, if you haven't already, start taking some pictures of the interior of your home. Go ahead and just save that. If there are, any articles of property in your home that, are particularly valuable, you want to try to see if you can maybe find a place where they can stay safe if there was any kind of flooding. One of the things that you may not know about an insurance policy is sometimes not all of your personal property is taken care of. Things like, valuables such as jewelry and furs, there's usually some type of limit on those types of things. And other policies I've seen have limits on the amount of electronics that are actually covered. And sometimes that's, what's called an endorsement that has to be placed on your insurance policy that will cover, all of your electronics. So you want to make sure that, if you have any of these particular types of items, furs, valuables like jewelry, even coins and paper money as well, insurance coverage will usually only cover about $1,000 worth of those particular types of items. And so if you have more than that, you want to make sure you keep those particularly safe in something like this when something like this happens.
So the southern end does not have a seawall, so this is going on 3 feet above normal high tide there. Same thing at Port O'Connor here, but Port O'Connor, this is the water coming this way in the bay, because there the wind is from the kind of east or down toward the southwest, pushing water to that end of the bay. Matagorda City, Matagorda City here, so that's more or less where this town is. That I was telling you that the storm is as of the top of the hour.
If you're watching from the Houston area or Texas in general, or especially if you're in Matagorda or any of those areas, I want you to, the chat is open. I want to, see what you're seeing down there, firsthand account. Kind of tell me about it. Or if you're, in any other area that may potentially be affected by this storm, let's see what you have to say. Are you prepared? I think that's the biggest thing that that I want to know. And how did you prepare? One of the things that I did was I made sure all of my, electronics, such as my phone, I have a lot of little LED lights, chargeable LED lights and flashlights and things of that nature. I made sure all those were charged up. I made sure I had plenty of cables and cords just in case that I need to connect them to a generator or even connect them to my car. So one of the things that you can do, that if you do not necessarily have a generator, especially sometimes it's too late at this point, is, these modern cars right now have a lot of different ports and charging capabilities. So make sure you have enough cords that you can, if you have to, you can just charge them on your car. And in fact, I'll probably invest in this. There are converter kits now that you can actually put on your car that pretty much makes your car engine a generator. So I found out about that, a few days ago. So probably here in the next few days, if there is another storm, if it does happen, I'll have that capability. I think that is very important to have.
Northern Houston suburbs, and so you have that with the heavy rain, and this is going to knock out power, and this is going to take down trees, and a serious situation, we think, through the morning into the afternoon in Houston. There is the forecast for the rain, and you can see where the darker colors are. That's 5 to 8 inches, and we know that down closer to the coast here, we've already had the 8 inches, and there's more coming. So the forecast here is for generally 5 to 10 inches, some places 15 inches in this corridor here west of of downtown Houston to north of downtown Houston. So those counties of Brazoria County, North Fort Bend County, and on the counties that wrap around Houston, very, very heavy rain. And then that water has to go down toward the Gulf. So where does it go? It goes down the San Jacinto River into the bay, Galveston Bay, or it goes through the Buffalo Bayou on down through Houston. So here's where the flash flood threat is, all the way up to Texarkana, and you see Houston, Galveston,
Texarkana.
right in there. That's a 3 out of 4.
That's about a 4.5 hour drive from Houston. So that is a very large area to have potential flash flooding. That is from the same storm. So that's pretty significant.
We just got a wind gust out of Matagorda Bay, Brian, up to almost 90 now, 89 miles per hour. So that's some big wind gusts forcing that water into the coastline. That's Fox Weather Hurricane Specialist Brian Norcross. Thank you. Craig?
Yeah, we'll continue to track this all morning long. Beryl approaching Texas. Landfall expected within the next hour or so. Of course, Fox Weather exclusive storm tracker Mark Sudduth bringing us the picture outside of Surfside Beach, Texas. Just look at all the rain and the wind coming in. Of course, flooding is going to be an issue. America's weather team is fanned out across the country as we track this storm. We're tracking everything with continued hurricane coverage. More Fox Weather next.
Beryl bashes Jamaica as the historic hurricane.
So I just got a question from Alexandra about the winds. She asked, is the hurricane hitting as a Category 1, and what are the winds? Right now, it did when. This is kind of weird because I don't think I'll check here shortly. I don't think there's been an official landfall announcement yet. Landfall doesn't occur until the center of the eye of the hurricane is over land. I believe the center or the eye of the hurricane has started to make its way across land, but I'm not sure if the center has been declared, as making it past land. And right now it is a Category 1. So once that center hits, then we can say, yes, it hit as a Category 1 hurricane. And I believe right now we're having Category 1 about, 80 to 90 miles per hour winds that are being recorded. So I would say that, yeah, the likelihood of it being a Category 1 hurricane when the Beryl does, make it across land is, at least, 95%. So I'd count on it. So yes. I think another break here. Apparently, I think I'm having some. I think I just have to deal with it.
And welcome back. We are now back on Fox Weather.
I'm not able to change some of these settings.
Storm trackers out there. Vince Welty in Matagorda, Texas. Matagorda, Texas, by the way, not far from where we're watching Beryl right now, about 15 miles away or so. Matagorda City had some sustained winds of 68 miles per hour, gusts up to 68 miles per hour, gusts up to 86 miles per hour, and storm surge we're watching closely as Beryl continues just off the coast. We will wait for official landfall from the National Hurricane Center. We bring you every update as they come in, hour by hour, and that landfall expected within the next hour, perhaps two, but it is moving relatively quickly, and as it goes off to the west, maybe a little bit sooner.
Yeah, so we're still waiting for the official landfall. So when it officially makes landfall, then we can consider it a Category 1 hurricane. Right now, it is a Category 1 hurricane that has not made landfall.
These winds are widespread throughout a good chunk of central coastal Texas. Now, here's what we're looking at with the 4 a.m. advisory. Still has winds at 80 miles per hour, still Category 1. Now, this is a little bit of track to the west, as Brian Norcross has been talking about this morning. That would give us an earlier landfall. If it decides to go a little bit north, maybe a little bit later. Pressure has dropped a little bit now at 982 millibars.
So where, if it does go a little west, that's probably the area that I don't want it to really, I mean, you know, it sounds kind of silly or, you know, kind of counterintuitive. But, you know, when it comes to these hurricanes, you almost really want that eye to go right over you. You're going to get, if you have, I mean, if you can't avoid it at all, because that's usually where you're going to get the least sustained winds and damages. It's going to be that east side of the storm where you're going to get the tornadoes and the flooding. So, and especially if you recall, I was a little west in Port Lavaca, if that's where some of these models are kind of showing that this hurricane will hit. A little in that area is kind of close to where a few years ago Hurricane Harvey hit, which caused a lot of flooding in Houston, and that caused Houston to be on the east side of the storm. And so if it does that, then you may have those potential types types of flooding chances. So you really almost want that thing to go as close to the east as possible. That way to kind of avoid the Houston area, the area where I'm at, you know, from being right there on the east side of the storm.
This is producing a lot of rain, and since they're training almost in the same location, flooding an issue. Storm surge has been an issue for many of us, and that's going to be the story moving through the next several hours, especially as a lot of these waterways have streams and creeks, and a lot of them, we've got Brazoria, we've got Brazos River, a lot of those can't let the water out, so we'll watch storm surge there as well.
Yeah, that wind field, Craig, is well formed, and Brian Norcross has been giving us the explanation in through here where you have the strongest push of water into the shoreline. That's what builds up the surge. We've seen significant rise. Matagorda City up to almost 3 feet. The power outage tracker, that's been trending up. And Craig, you see that spreading all the way up into the Houston metro area. For now, understandably so. The worst of this is in Matagorda, but unfortunately,
that's an interesting graphic here. 53,000 people out of power already.
Fox Weather Storm Tracker Mark Sudduth with us back on the phone. Craig, we've been talking with Mark throughout the overnight period. He's had his live camera. Mark,
because there's a little outages right there, you know, in the Panhandle, Central Texas area, but I'm not sure if that's related to this storm.
I've been in these hurricanes over my career.
They have a lot of wind activity up there, which may have, the storm may have caused it to pick up, but that may be from something else.
Generator. All of Bay City is without power right now except for this Walmart, so we can see all around us. It's really weird.
What's crazy to me, Mark, is we're getting the old
that sounds like a conspiracy waiting to happen,
light speed effect right now, but you're stopped, and that's a function of this wind-driven rain.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So I'm staying still. Obviously, would not want to drive in this.
So I want to talk about wind-driven rain.
Upload a video that I took
So
with my
wind-driven rain, of
phone,
course, it
looking
is what
out
it
the
sounds like.
windshield.
It's
Right across
rain
from us,
that's
there was
being
power
pushed
lines. What
by
they
the
do is the
wind.
wind will sort
It's
of finger
very
those power lines like a guitar
important
string,
or
right?
it's significant
And
when it comes
they
in the
touch,
insurance
they'll start
context
arcing, and that's
because a
really
lot of
weird
insurance
to see.
policies
Again, I've
have
seen it so many
specific
times in my
clauses when
career.
it comes to
Every time you
wind-driven
see it,
rain.
it's just
And most of the
odd and different,
time,
and it makes that
if they
really
cover
neat
wind-driven
rain
rain,
sound.
it has to be caused first, and you have to, well, they want the homeowner to prove that an opening was caused by the wind, which cause wind-driven rain to enter to the dwelling or the property and damage the property. So that is a lot of times a big fight. I know it doesn't make sense for them when they're like, for to a lot of people who don't kind of work in this context, but wind-driven rain is a big fight when it comes to hurricanes, because the issue is a lot of times insurance companies will try to say, well, this is groundwater or flood water that caused these damages. So unless there's an opening in the roof or maybe even maybe a window or something that maybe it got busted out, or maybe even an opening on the side of the house that caused rain to get in there, they won't cover that water damage inside of your house. But there are a lot of ways that wind-driven rain can actually get into your house without there being an opening that you can actually see with your eyes. It can, with these high force winds, lifting of shingles and getting underneath shingles or getting into the vents and whatnot in your roof, it can cause some damage. And a lot of times that's my fight, showing that no, this is wind damage in a different form.
We're trying to watch our camera at the where's that other one? Surfside Beach, and it's got night vision on it, and there's a fence that the night vision is illuminating, and we're using that as a gauge.
Hey,
and if we
Mark,
can't see the fence.
That's where Britta is. Britta just actually had to leave. They had to evacuate because they said the surge was coming up quickly. She was with the fire department. They got out of there in the high water vehicle.
Yeah, we're definitely going to look at that camera then after I'm done with this hit and see what we can see. That night vision could be very revealing. It's actually a house several rows back, a really nice lady that we met because of my interview with Britta earlier today, let us use her house to put the camera on. So that's really interesting. Once we're done, we'll certainly check that out.
Mark, you're right now about 23 miles or so from Matagorda in just a bit. You talked about the amount of rain coming down and how fast it's coming down there. With these cameras, cellular connections, have you seen most of them up or some of them going down at some point?
Well, for this event, we brought 5 with us, and we were able to get 3 of them out in time for all of this. We just weren't sure what Beryl was going to do. None of us were, right?
Yeah.
And so all 3 of them are up, which is just incredible. We have
So
our
if you're
live
just
feed
joining
going on
or
here
you've been watching here in the
from
last few
vehicle,
minutes, my
which
name
I'm
is
looking
Cedrick
at the
Forrest. I'm
bandwidth
an
on it, and
insurance
it's
lawyer
streaming out
here
at 2 to
in
3
Houston,
megabits
Texas.
per second.
I
And it's remarkable.
I fight insurance carriers in a it's a modern David versus Goliath, if you want to kind of think about it. Insurance carriers or insurance companies routinely deny
it's amazing, and we can help.
the obvious damage that we're seeing right here on our screen, where the flooding and the wind has caused, significant damage. At the end of this, this could easily top $1 billion or more in damage. I'm pretty sure a few million in damage has already occurred simply from the wind, those wind gusts that you're seeing right now.
When you're in this for a while. Luckily,
it's par for the course after this that people are denied
if you could
their insurance claim for various reasons. And so that's where I come in. I look at the damage. I have experts go out and survey and estimate that damage, and then I present that to the insurance companies along with, the law.
Yeah, Mark, that's what
one of the tools that I do like to use, I was kind of explaining earlier, is drone technology. Drone technology and AI hand in hand, it has absolutely changed the way that these types of damages are estimated and evaluated. It's quick, for one thing. And then also, you know, if you have the right type of drones, like the drones that I use, it captures a lot of different data besides just a picture. We can see even temperature, and temperature on a roof will be indicative of you know, water intrusion. And you can see the cold spots, or and the spots where even like the warmer spots, that's where you can see maybe where the wind has blown up shingles or blown up the protective layer on a roof. And those are the things that insurance adjusters routinely miss, and cause insurance claims to not be paid. So that's where I kind of step in. I do all of this for my clients. I really believe that it's, you know, something that just has to be done. You know, insurance companies spend billions of dollars every year on lawyers, and you know, there's not too many lawyers like myself who do this type of work. We do it, you know, with no money. Well, at least myself, I do it with without taking any money from my clients up front. And so I'm so confident in my work and what I do that I'm able to get you some type, you know, get you a better outcome by using me. That I just, you know, I do this without taking any money out of your pocket up front. And so, with that, you know, I'm very passionate about what I do, and I try to make sure that I get people's homes rebuilt, get their lives back together, make sure that this storm does not, you know, cripple them any more than it has to, and they're able to get back on their feet as quickly as possible. In this time, especially, you know, with money being so tight and inflation so high and all of these things, it's very important that the insurance carrier, which is part of the richest industry in the United States,
Center of the storm right there.
does what's right.
We'll wait for the National Weather Service to give us their official call on it. But meantime, look at the backside of that, Ian. Some of those rain bands have been so intense, now making it all the way up into Houston. So as we've been talking this morning, maybe the commute's pulled off today. I know that we're coming off of a long holiday.
I'm kind of wondering
yes,
where they got
is a
this
good day
name
to stay home
Beryl
if possible.
from.
It's just going to be so
however
rough.
you
Look
want
at
to say it.
Galveston
Does
as well.
anyone
We also
have
these
any
flash flood warnings
family
taking place
members named
radar
Beryl?
and
Burl?
indicated for some of
You
these
know what I
storms. I know
mean?
you were talking about
It's
these earlier, Ian. Some of
the
places
first
that
time
are
I've heard the
reporting
name. I've heard of
5 inches of
Daryl,
rain, and the
but
rainfall
not
rates we're
Beryl.
looking at, some may get to
How do you
10
say it?
inches of rain
Beryl.
quickly between
Beryl.
3 hours, maybe even before the sun comes up. And then we've got the chance for not only that, but some tornadoes with these storms. Take a look at that. Boy, it was impressive overnight, where it was getting some of the dry air getting wrapped in there, and the center was trying to close off, but it was trying to tighten up. Now we're seeing what it's doing as it gets closer to land here. Taking a look at, again, Matagorda County. Wow, look at that camera there. When the rain just came coming down in sheets, and we've been talking about, you know, some places losing power. Of course, some of them have generators. Perhaps this specific Walmart may have a powerful generator. Palacios, 80-mile-per-hour gusts at this hour, extends to 56 miles per hour all the way to Galveston. But look at the sustained winds, 54 miles per hour in Palacios, Bay City 46, and Galveston at 40. Now,
So it
having
looks
said
like
that, you know we're going to be dealing with power outages. You've been watching, if you've been watching
those
this
power
morning with
outages.
Britta and Ian
I say,
talking,
okay, so
a lot
I
of
have a
the
top.
power has been flickering on and off.
I guess I'll put
Britta's
my order
actually
of my
heard
concerns
some of
right
the
now.
pops off in
I
the
think my
distance,
top
safe
concern
enough
right now
to be away from
would
that.
be the
At
wind.
this point, she is in Surfside Beach,
Number
Texas,
two
south of Houston,
would
south
be,
of Galveston. She and her
power
crew,
outages.
as well as the fire
No,
department,
you know
where
what?
they
Let me
were
put it. Let me
hunkered
flip
down,
that.
are moving to
Number
higher
one
ground.
would be
So she
power
will check in with
outages.
us
Number
once they're in
two,
a safe
wind,
spot.
and number
Our good
three
friend has
would
been
be the
giving us
flooding.
coverage
At
since
least for
yesterday
right
and
now.
early this
That
morning
order
and
may
overnight,
change.
beginning at midnight here with Ian. So
Right
when you
now,
look at the
there were
images coming in
reports
from Vince
of
Welty as well
about
in Bay City,
50,000
Texas,
people
quite a bit
already
of
out of
rain
power.
coming down. And again, this has been the
And,
concern where we've
you
been
know, this is
watching
kind
the
of just
storm
beginning.
for several days, and it's
So,
moving over into the Gulf of Mexico.
we'll
Kind of
see.
slowed a bit, but it remained a tropical storm, and then last night became a hurricane, Category 1 again. This tornado watch, by the way, includes the Woodlands on the northern fringe of Houston, and it goes all the way to Port Arthur. This is until 10 a.m. Central Time.
So yeah,
Bay City
the
included in
Woodlands
that.
in
You see the
Montgomery
live shot from
County,
Bay
I'm in
City
that
there.
area.
They are included with the tornado watch.
And
Extends
so
down through Freeport, Galveston right in smack in the middle of it, Galveston
is
Bay as
going
well.
to
You can see
be
portions
a
of the
very,
barrier islands will be
that's
under
why I'm
that
watching out
tornado
for
watch
those
again until
tornado
10 a.m. Central Time.
tornado watches.
So as these winds come through, the frictional
Tornadoes.
difference here is really going to help some of these perhaps spawn up some tornadoes. And when you think about the timing, it's still dark out there. Sun hasn't come up. That was a main concern as well, as this was going to be a nighttime event for a lot of the impacts happening while the sun was still down. Not until the sun comes up. At that point, we're still going to be watching how devastating this can be in some cases. There's a shot right now from Bay City again. There you can see the Walmart lit up pretty well. Joining us now on the phone is Britta Merwin. Britta, we want to check in with you because I know that you had to leave your spot there at the fire department in Surfside Beach. Where are you now, and what was it like getting there? I'm glad, number one, that you're safe, and so is your crew.
Yeah, obviously safety is of the utmost importance. When you have firefighters tell you that they're leaving and they're going to escort you, that's when you listen and you comply and you start moving. It's a very short drive. That's why we actually accepted the offer of having a safe even with the Surfside Beach Fire Department, is that it is so close to the bridge that gets you over to the mainland. So it was literally a 1-minute drive, but I will be honest, the surge was coming in quickly. We grabbed our equipment quickly and we got out and followed their high water profile vehicles. I would say we were driving through water that was probably about 4 inches deep, which might sound minor to viewers, but the problem is storm surge rushes in really quick. So the minute you see 4 inches of water, that can turn into a foot of water in about a 15-minute window. And as meteorologists, we know the risk, of course, as firefighters, since we are with the Surfside Beach Firefighter Department, they know the risk as well. So once you start seeing those trends, you ditch and you get out. So where did we head? We went to the base of the bridge. Obviously, these are bridges that reach high into the air. So now we are safe from the surge element, but we don't want to go too high up on the bridge because obviously we're exposing ourselves to stronger winds. Right now in Freeport, which is on the other side of this bridge, they've had a confirmed wind gust of 79 miles per hour.
What I want to do right now is I am going to get up here shortly for a quick minute
80, 85 miles per hour,
or a few minutes here, kind of stretch a little bit,
so we
and
obviously will be
I
stuck here at the base of the bridge.
I'm check on my
until
family
we
here,
get
send some
past,
messages and
this
everything.
big chunk.
And if you're watching this and you're in the area, I
Britta,
suggest you do the same
here's Stephen
thing.
McLeod, meteorologist behind the scenes.
I
Our friend saying wind gusts
expect
to 82
to be
miles
back
per hour.
here
Firefighters, did they
about like 6:30 at least. So give me a little break here. I may be back sooner, and so you can. I'm going to say, yeah, I'll probably be back sooner than that, but at least by 7 o'clock, because that's whenever it's supposed. Well, really, 6:30, 6:30 is whenever the storm is supposed to, pass on through here in this area. So if I still have power at that time, I'll figure out a way. Not, I'll probably go live on my phone if I need to. But I want to get a little bit of rest because I want to be able to broadcast for as long as I can tomorrow and kind of really just give an update on the aftermath of this storm. So I appreciate you watching right now, and I will see you in the next few hours. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. I'm a very small channel. I just do this every now and then, but I do appreciate helping folks and kind of sharing my knowledge as much as I can. And if you have any questions, I will respond to your questions. So go ahead and leave them in the chat. And I will see you shortly. Thank you.